This one is for Umit. He asked me how to repot a fern, and then I realised I need to test the video camera before tomorrow anyway, so I'm going to demonstrate how to repot a fern. The first thing you will need is your fern, obviously. You will also need a larger pot. I would recommend something that is obviously bigger than the one that you've already got, but not too much bigger, so it needs a little bit more room for your roots to spread out and grow. Honestly, I probably could have gone a bit bigger than I went, but I didn't have the original plant with me at the garden centre, so I just guessed. You might also want one of these little tray thingies. They're often sold separately to the pot, so don't just assume you've got one if you've picked up a pot. That's to stop the water running everywhere when you drain. If you have a pot that doesn't have holes in the bottom, you might want to get some of these. Oops, pretty little thingies. You can put them along the bottom of your pot if it doesn't have any drainage holes, and it will help the soil to drain rather than getting waterlogged and mouldy, which you don't want. You can also, the wine is optional. You can also, you will need some compost. I just use normal houseplant compost, that's fine. You can also get multi-purpose compost, which will probably also be fine. So, let's do some repotting. This is Alfred, by the way. He's a tomato plant and he got repotted a couple of days ago. So, I'm going to set you here and hope that people can see what is going on. So first of all, what you want to do is you want to take your fern, I'm just going to move the camera again. You want to take your fern out of its original pot, but you want to do that without damaging the plant or the roots. So what I normally do is pick it up. It helps actually if you haven't watered it for a couple of days. If it's a little bit dry, it makes it slightly easier to get out. Just very gently sort of squidge it a little bit to make it a bit wiggly, I don't know. There's probably like plant person terms for this, but you know, I'm not a plant person really. And then gently turn it upside down. The smaller your plant is, the easier it will be. And sort of press on the bottom a little bit, and it should just come free. There will be earth that will fall everywhere. If you have, I'm not sure how big your roots are or how well you can see in this light, but if you have roots that are coming through the bottom, they should just pull out as you're pulling the plant forward gently, but if they don't, you can kind of tease them out a little bit with your hands. Just don't pull too hard, just sort of tease them backwards. Try not to think about how much they look like spider legs. So then you have your plant, it should be a bit like this. You should still be able to hold it. There might be more soil everywhere, it just depends on the consistency of the soil you've used. So stick that there for a moment. Then, well actually you probably should have done this first, but I forgot. So put your compost in the new pot. Compost bags are really heavy, by the way. A lot of people, when they're repotting plants, like to wear gardening gloves to stop their hands getting dirty. I quite like, surprisingly, I quite like the feeling of earth between my fingers, so I don't do that. So just, there we go, stick some compost in. It can be quite difficult to work out how much compost you need because you're going to repot the plant in its old soil as well, but just sort of eyeball it and you can always add more in a bit. So, woo, that was a bit too much, never mind. So stick your compost in, your hands are nice and earthy now, you look like a real gardener. How exciting, pretend you're Charlie Dimmock. I had a massive crush on her when I was about 10, she was my first lady crush. First of many. Anyway, so once you have put some compost in, make a little, in fact I'm going to put a little bit more compost in. Okay. Also, I tend to just kind of scrumple the compost a bit to make it a little bit more finely granulated. Quite often it will come with big clumps in. Some of them will be stones, which obviously you can't break, but some of them will be just bits of earth that you can break up a bit more. Especially with ferns, they don't mind the clumpy bits so much because they quite like to have something to grab onto with their roots. But anyway, then as you can see, I'm just making a bit of a hole in the middle of the, you can't see because the light is really bad, but it was like a whole thing in the middle of the where the soil is. Lift up your plant and try and fail. I'll just place some compost, there we go. Lift up your plant and place it into the hole. Don't be afraid to like push it down a bit. Plants are hardier than we give them credit for. Then gather up some more compost. So you'll probably find that the plant that you've just put in, the soil there is slightly raised away from the soil that you had just put in the new compost. So then take your new compost, pack it around the plant. Whoops. Pack it in quite solidly. Make sure you sort of pat it down. It needs, because it's just moved, moving is stressful, as we all know. I have moved so many times and I know how stressful it is. And it's helpful to have a little bit of security, so this just gives it the extra security after it's moved house, so it doesn't feel sad and lonely. Pat it all down. Then you want to give it a really good water, again because moving is stressful, and when plants have had a lot of stress they like to eat a lot and drink a lot, which again is very relatable. Plants are brilliant. So a lot of people say water from the bottom, so fill up this little thing with water, which I would advocate doing most of the time. But when you've just repotted something, I would actually water from the top, because it will also help to kind of keep the soil quite firm, which you want. So I don't know how to do this and also be seen doing it, but I have the kitchen tap here, so just water around. I repot in the kitchen sink because it makes slightly less of a mess than doing it anywhere else, but obviously you can do it wherever you want in your house. So yeah, give it a good water. It will reject any water it doesn't want to drink anyway out of the bottom, so it's fine. Once you've, ow, it keeps attacking me. Once you've watered it, pat it a little bit again, just to reassure it. Then stick it in the little tray thing. You can add another little bit of water to the bottom tray as well, just so that it's got some water to drink from the bottom. And then move that away, and then turn the tap off. And then there you have it. There is a repotted fern, which was very easy to do. And now you have earned yourself a nice glass of wine.